Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. Welcome to another edition of the ODPH. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss. Let's waste no more time. Hashtag it up, ODPH. Biggest news stories of the week has to be the wild week that was the NFL.
Holy moly.
Absolutely. We got to break down our locks and leaps first and foremost. Dare I say I got one right, and then not so much on the second one. But my lock was those Jacksonville Jaguars taking it to the New York Jets 31-12.
Ouch.
The Jags defense is stepping up. They're doing what they need to do. I mean, at one point they were up, I believe it was 18-0. I mean, they got a safety with Marcel Darius to top that off. For going into the third quarter, they were just dominating the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the box score, and, you know, just to correct you, it was 16-0 at halftime. You look at it, it's 16-0 at halftime, and the Jets don't score anything, safety, field goal, touchdown, fumble recovery, anything, until the third quarter, and it's a field goal for the entire third quarter. Not a good look.
No, absolutely not. Like I said, you were right. They were shut out for the entire first half, and it was 16-0. And then, like I said, the Jags came right down third quarter, got the safety, so 18-0. And then finally, the Jets got on the scoreboard with a field goal. But then the Jags come right back with another touchdown. Moncrief had a 67-yard pass. And they just really just implemented their will. Like, we just say how nasty this defense is. And I know we talked in previous shows about how Jalen Ramsey was really, either painting a bullseye or really hyping up this team. And, I mean, he's backing up everything they're saying right now.
Right. And, I mean, even if you don't look at the highlights, you can just look at the statistics. I mean, Sam Darnold, 17 of 34, 167 yards, one touchdown, averaged 4.9 yards per pass.
Yeah.
You look at the running game. Bilal Powell had 8 carries for 26 yards. Sam Darnold himself had 2 carries for 8 yards. And then you move over to the receiving. Okay, sure, they had a little bit of success. They had Quincy Enunwa, who had 4 catches for 66 yards. But past that, Bilal Powell is your second leading receiver with 26 yards.
I mean, it's going to be a learning curve for Darnold. I think we all have to expect that with rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming out of the gate looking Peyton Manning-esque, Tom Brady-esque right out the gate. But Darnold is going to be a project for the Jets to work with, and especially he does not have an elite wide receiver.
No.
We were discussing this. I mean, Robbie Anderson has been very inconsistent for him. So
I mean, I'm looking at the Jets receiving core right now, and the only name I recognize Bilal Powell and I recognize Isaiah Crowell, but they're running backs. They're not receivers. The only name I recognize in the box score for those who caught passes on that receiving core is Jermaine Kearse.
Yeah. It's one of those things that the Jets are still in that rebuilding phase, but they do have their quarterback of the future in Darnold. And I'm sure if they start getting some weapons around him, I know Le'Veon Bell has been heavily rumored that he might end up there before the trade deadline. I know there's a lot of speculation where he's going to go. We're going to talk a little bit later about that. But overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars are really, really implementing their will on every team they're facing right now. They're looking great out the gate.
Right, and it's one thing to look great early out the gate, but it's another thing to continue it throughout the season. I mean, we've seen this with multiple teams over the years. It's going to be, you look great early in the season, but it's once you start hitting those, you hear about the dog days of summer with baseball, where you're really getting that grind, where you're really, you're going through the tough parts. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule here. Next week they are at Kansas City. Then they travel to Dallas. Then they go and they face Houston at home, and then Philly at home before they hit their bye week in Week 9. Not the hardest schedule, but it ain't easy by any means.
No, it's not going to be easy, and especially nobody gives trophies out in September for championships. It's not going to happen. It's a long season to go, but out the gate, Jacksonville has definitely looked impressive. Arguably a Super Bowl contender. Arguably, I want to stress that.
Yeah.
And if they keep this up, who knows where they're going to go? As long as that defense stays healthy, and if they can get consistency out of Bortles, they can get there.
Oh, yeah.
But it all depends on that, because if they start tailing off, I know Leonard Fournette went out again with injury or wasn't in for that long. That's going to hurt him down the road if they can't get him going.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of factors going in with that. But Jacksonville out the gate is looking great. My leap for this week, though, the New York Football Giants did not look that great, albeit Drew Brees is playing like dare I say, as he drank the fountain of youth, he's
drinking something, because holy cow, he looks like he hadn't lost a step, and he looks just as good as he always does.
Absolutely. And granted, the Giants came out, and I did predict Sterling Shepard was going to be involved. It kicked off the game with a touchdown for the Giants, but New Orleans kept coming back.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit field goal action, and then they got Alvin Kamara going, and then it just went from there.
I'll say thank you for getting Alvin Kamara involved on my fantasy team. Thanks you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all thought we were going to have a shootout between Eli and Drew Brees.
That's what it looked like.
But it didn't happen. It came down to the running game, and Kamara, had a great day. 19 carries, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns. And when you're doing that, it takes a lot of pressure off Brees to really, have to have a shootout.
Right, because, you look at Brees and you look at the New Orleans offense ever since Drew Brees has gotten there and teamed up with Sean Payton. It's been, gunslinger, throw first, ask questions later. Throw it down your throat and hope to God your secondary has enough oxygen to last the day. But, they've got that great running back in Alvin Kamara. So, like you said, having a running game, no matter who you are, be it the New Orleans Saints or, a run-heavy team, is great because it takes pressure off of Brees, and Brees knows, okay, I don't have to throw it 50 times in the game here.
No, he didn't. He only threw for 217 yards. Nothing to sneeze at there. But it takes a lot of pressure off him, and especially if you can get that running game going, the sky is the limit for a team. And you have one with Kamara who can definitely take the load and really just punch it down the throats of the Giants. The Giants were not looking that bad the entire day. But it's just one of those things that once the second half kicked in, Kamara really took over the game.
Oh, yeah. And Kamara's one of those great running backs in that he can block, he can run. You look at his receiving. Nothing jumping out at you, but still 5 catches for 47 yards. That makes a difference.
Oh, it absolutely does. And this is one of those situations where, for New Orleans, especially traveling outside the Superdome, where notoriously they don't do so well.
No.
This was a great road win for them.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Giants, I think they fall to 1-3 now. Not time to hit panic just yet, but it's going to be a lot of question marks coming up.
There's more question marks than you might have previously had, because I know fans were kind of optimistic. They had Saquon Barkley. They'd reworked their offensive line, new head coach, and this and the other. So I know, having known a few Giants fans, I know they were very optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the season's a wash by any stretch. There's still a lot of games left, but man, you got to get your stuff together quick.
Oh, especially now when you're getting to October. It's kind of the feeling out process is done for the season thus far.
Yeah, because their schedule coming up isn't exactly a walk in the park. Next week they go to Carolina. After that, they're at home against Philly. Then they travel to Atlanta, and then they play the Redskins at home before they hit the bye week in Week 9.
There's going to be a lot of things that they're going to need to work on if they want to contend. And especially the NFC East has become very highly contested thus out the gate. No easier way to describe it. It has just been a very surprising division thus far.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Giants, they're going to have some work to do. I know Coach Duffy, who couldn't make it in this week's episode, was definitely adamant about this, and he feels they can turn it around. I do too. It's just they're going to need to do something and do something quick, because Carolina's coming off that bye. They're going to be ready to go.
Mm-hmm. I think the surprising thing for me in the Giants is you look at Odell Beckham Jr.'s stats. He just got that monster contract. He's got to live up to it. He's got to earn it as it will. And you look at his stats: 31 catches on 45 targets for only 331 yards. Longest is 30 yards, no touchdowns.
That's something that's going to be haunting. Any player that signs a big money contract is expected to really produce coming out the gate.
I will say this, though. I will give him a little bit of credit. I saw on Twitter last night during the Giants game, I can't remember what account it was. It might have been Pro Football Talk, or they might have retweeted somebody, where he's been thrown like 24, what's been deemed 24 uncatchable balls. Mm-hmm. He's dropped none of them.
Well, that's the thing.
I will give him a little bit of credit.
Yeah, they can get the ball to him, but we've discussed this before. The Giants' offensive line is a work in progress. If they can't keep Eli off his back, and if they can give him enough time to get the ball to Odell, yeah, they're going to do some damage.
So they can't keep Eli off his back or running for his life.
Yeah, that's one thing. If your line is awful, it doesn't matter who you got behind center.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be behind the entire time. The Giants have made improvements, so don't get me wrong. But are they to an elite level yet? No. But they're getting there, but they still got some work to do in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, what was your locks and leaps?
Well, of course, I took the Green Bay Packers winning against the Buffalo Bills, which I know it hurt you a little bit, but I just looked at it this way. Yes, Buffalo had a great win against Minnesota. I won't take anything away from them. Mm-hmm. But I think I know I said to you, I kind of wanted to wait and see a week for Buffalo, because to me, part of Buffalo's win against Minnesota was Minnesota getting caught looking past Buffalo, because you look at Buffalo the 2 or 3 weeks prior to their game, before they played the Vikings, they weren't that great.
Oh, no, I grant you.
And then they played out of their mind against Minnesota, and I'm like, okay, it's a good look. Let's give it a week and see what happens. And then they go to Green Bay, where they threw the stat on the screen during the game. Green Bay hasn't lost a game at home since 2012.
Well, that's the thing. Green Bay, when you step foot into Lambeau Field, it's going to be a long day if you're an opposing team.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. They have that aura at Lambeau that is one of the few places, if you're an opponent, chances are you're probably not going to win. It's just something magical you can say about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's indescribable. For the Bills, yeah, they did come off that high win against Minnesota. And I agree with you. I think Minnesota was completely looking past them. I think it was a trap game for them. But for the Bills, they didn't look the worst on defense, because if there's anything to take away from this, the defense slowed down Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit, though, we saw a lot of weaknesses in the Packers' offense. There was a lot of drop balls that could have gone for a lot more points.
So saying Aaron Rodgers, at least to this point, I know he's never going to say how his leg is doing. He's very much like Derek Jeter or Michael Jordan, in that you're not going to get a word out of him. You got a better chance of breaking into Fort Knox.
Right.
I got to imagine the leg is bothering him substantially, no matter what, painkillers they're giving him. But you definitely get the feeling watching some of his plays that he's not as crisp as he normally is, and that the leg is definitely bothering him.
No, in fact, I remember there was a play in the second quarter, I believe, where they were near the goal line, and I thought a lineman fell on him again, and he immediately went grabbing his knee brace. Albeit he was taking grass out of it. It looked like, I think he was just trying to really calm everybody down, but it also looked like he took another shot on it. But you're right. His knee, we don't know the extent of the damage to it and just how much, what percentage it is of being healthy.
I don't remember anything coming out about how bad it was, because normally you see a football player get injured, or like a strain or something. Oh, it's a grade 2, it's a grade 3, grade 1, whatever. I don't remember reading anything about how bad it is.
Only thing I read was he was questionable, and then he went to healthy.
Right,
that's the only thing.
But you look at his stats: 22 of 40 for 298 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked twice.
Yeah, and the Bills, they were trying to put as much pressure on him as you can, but I think I've said this before. If you're going to face an elite quarterback like Rodgers, like Brady, you're going to need to play perfect.
Right, and you're playing against a quarterback who is known to run out of the pocket, and whose receivers are genuinely told, all right, here's your route, here's the general idea, but you're probably not going to follow that.
Right, and like I said, there was a couple times he had some receivers really drop some open balls. But like I said, the only thing the Bills can take away is they slowed down the offense of the Packers, but they couldn't get theirs going. And it was like the same problems they were having. The offensive line was not giving Josh Allen enough time to go through his progressions. They couldn't get the running game going at all. Right.
It's still a rookie quarterback learning the game, and no matter what they say, the pace of the NFL is like night and day compared to college.
And one thing early out the gate too is when Allen is trying to move in the pocket, he does not like to throw the ball away. He tries making plays happen, which at this stage you need to kind of swallow some pride and get the ball out of bounds so you stop taking the loss of yardage. He was doing a lot of just hanging on, and it's like, you can get away with that in the college game.
Right.
You can't get away with that in the pros. It's not like he was leaping over defenders again, thank God.
Right.
But these are the situations where he needs to develop a sense of awareness and know, okay, I can't make a play here. Throw the ball out of bounds and let's start over.
Right, and if he's going to truly be your quarterback of the future, your guy who's in that position for the next, however long he is fortunate to play, 10 plus years, however long it is, you've got to leave him in there. It's going to be painful. It's going to be ugly, but for him to learn and get the NFL system and the way the NFL plays, you got to let him in there and take his bumps.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's no chance they were going to pull him, and he does. You're right. He does have to learn. This is how you learn on the job, so to speak. If they tried pulling him and put Peterman in, it would have been a riot. They would have, the fan base would have gone completely ballistic. You have to put him in, but the only thing that you need to do is, okay, what have we seen now in 4 games? What do we need to improve on? What do we not? This is just me sitting home watching and going, he's holding on the ball way too long, and he's trying to make stuff happen when there's nothing.
Right.
This is stuff that, like I said, you can get away with in college, but you can't do in the pros.
And that's part of the issue you see with a lot of rookie quarterbacks is they develop habits in college and high school and middle school and peewee and everything on up. They develop habits, and those habits work fine when you're in high school or college football where, it's a rather uneven playing level between players.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get to the NFL, it's like, okay, that playing level is like turned up 4 notches, where some of the stuff you got, like you said, some of the stuff you can get away with in college is great. Doesn't work in the NFL because you're facing an elite level of talent. You know, wherever you play college, be it Wisconsin or UCLA, odds are you're not facing a guy like Demaryius Thomas if you're on defense, or a guy like DeMarcus Ware if you're on offense.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations that you have to learn as quickly as possible, because if you make the NFL starting rosters, you are an elite level athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a whole different ball game than what you played in college.
Yep.
So for the Bills, I got a little questions to answer. I know they're coming back home to face Tennessee moving forward. So in Tennessee, coming off a big win this weekend too against Philly.
Yep.
That'll be no easy task for them on Sunday.
Nope. But moving over to my leap, I took the Detroit Lions to beat the Dallas Cowboys. I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I figured coming off of a massive, monumental win against the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football, prime time, national audience would really, kick them in the pants to put a win on and go against those Dallas Cowboys. But they made it close for it was close for the first half, and then Dallas really just, grinded them out there at the end.
I mean, that's one thing you're going to have is Detroit. They look great against New England, but they were winning at one stage against Dallas, and it just came down to a late field goal for Brett Maher for the Cowboys to get them over the top. So It's not to say that Detroit was ran out of the stadium by any means.
No,
but it just goes to show that Dallas finally got the ball clicking, and the one thing they did, which they haven't done previously, is feed Zeke.
Yep.
Elliott got 25 carries for 152 yards. If you get him going, that is your offense right there.
Mm-hmm. It's like, if Le'Veon Bell was playing, which, again, we'll get to later.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if Le'Veon Bell's playing, if you ain't handing Le'Veon Bell the ball, odds are you ain't going to be winning.
No, it's one of those situations that for Dallas, their whole offense is based on Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
And why they just don't give him the ball 25, 30 times a game is beyond me. They've been kind of trying to let Dak win games for him. No, because there's so much pressure on him. If you're not doing the running game, everybody knows he's going to be throwing.
Right, and I understand to a certain degree why you want to try and get Dak some reps and try to help let Dak win some games. But if Zeke is your moneymaker, your breadwinner, your guy who's going to win you the games, if your typical run plays that you normally like to run aren't working, I'm going to start throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks. I'm digging deep in that playbook and going, all right, we hadn't run this one before. Let's try it.
Yeah, but with Dallas, they finally got him the ball. I mean, Elliott even, too, had 4 receptions, 88 yards for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And they really got the ball going. Albeit, though, Stafford and everybody from Detroit, they've been hanging in games, too.
Yeah.
And I know that there was that infamous touchdown by Golden Tate, which I think fired everybody up on the sidelines for Dallas. They're high-stepping and almost moonwalking into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of it, though, Dallas hung in there. And, I mean, they played gritty down late, especially – with Golden Tate getting a second touchdown there late in the game, and we thought with 2 minutes left that maybe Dak wasn't going to be able to pull it off, but he did.
Yeah, kudos to him. But you look at Detroit, no easy task this coming week. They're staying at home and playing Green Bay. Whoa, boy.
Mm-hmm.
You move over to the Dallas side of the ball, Sunday Night Football in Houston.
It's going to be interesting to watch moving forward. Whole lot of slate of football we got to still talk about. We're going to take a quick break. Hashtag it up, ODPH. We're going to be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back on the ODPH, time to talk a little more NFL action from the past week.
Well, boy, do we have some stuff to talk.
I tell you what, the Browns got hosed
Yeah,
against
they did.
Oakland.
Yeah, they
I mean,
did.
Congratulations to our Oakland listeners. If you're Raiders fans, you finally got that big win.
Mm-hmm.
But man, my heart goes out for Cleveland because now we've mentioned this on previous episodes too. It's getting to the point where when the referees are taking control of the games late and calls are costing teams.
Yep.
This is really not the best look for the NFL.
I mean, you hear it when you're watching the NBA, where, particularly in the playoffs, where, you see something that could be called a foul, but you hear the announcers go, oh, well, they're letting them play. They're letting them, you would like to see that, okay, call the obvious stuff, horse collar, roughing the passer, which we'll get to that in a minute, but you see the obvious stuff in this, that could have been close and let them go. But like you said, when they start taking control, I'm not that much of a fan.
I'm not either. I mean, it takes away from the game, and that's the problem. And anytime you get that going, it just really is just frustrating. That's the easiest way to describe it, just as a fan and just the integrity of the game. Because Cleveland, I mean, they played out of their minds that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably one of the most high-scoring games we've seen all season thus far. And just to see how it just, I don't want to say it backfired on the overall game, but just having that asterisk hang on the game is just, it's awful. And just looking at the stat lines too, I mean, Baker Mayfield, 2 interceptions, but he had 2 touchdowns, threw for 295. Nick Chubb, great game for him, 3 carries, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Average 35 yards. Holy cow.
Well, yeah, he busted open a couple deep runs. So when you got that going, and they really were keeping Oakland in check. But you got to give your credit where credit's due. Derek Carr had a very good game for 437 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Marshawn went into the beast mode again, 20 quick carries for 130 yards. Amari Cooper finally made a presence on the field.
Right, and I know Oakland was struggling a little bit offensively on the offensive line. I believe it was towards the end of the first half and beginning of the second half where 2 of their starting tackles, I believe it was on the right side, went down with injury, and all of a sudden you had to throw in 2 rookies on that right side of the Oakland offensive line against the Cleveland defense.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird situations that you really can't explain. It's just this game had just so much back and forth going on. I mean, with Oakland finally getting the game-winning field goal in overtime, 45-42 is the final.
Right, but not until like the last 2 minutes.
Right, because I know they missed one, and then just a couple questionable play calls. I know there was a roughing the passer that happened.
Yeah, oh boy.
I know we're jumping around a little bit, but there's just so much awkward penalties called in this one. Especially one that Cleveland, ran the ball, got the first down, and then there was just, that blind call that just brought him back. I don't even know how to even get into it without just going on a full rant of just how officiating is just really impacting this. And this is prime example. It's just another week that instead of talking how great a game was, we're talking about how the referees were making some very questionable calls.
And you bring up the referees making questionable calls, and you mentioned one in particular that I would like to bring up, that being all the roughing the passer calls. And I know it's been discussed ad nauseum on TV and sports radio and on social media, but I agreed with a lot of it. That you look at the ones in Green Bay and everywhere else. And the one that kind of stuck out to me and kind of made me go, okay, yeah, no, this is going to be an issue, was the one you had against, I believe it was Baker Mayfield, where he got shoved.
Yeah.
He wasn't hit. He wasn't picked up and dropped. He wasn't, sumo body slammed. He wasn't, picked up and dropped like in the WWE. No, he was pushed. And the concerning thing to me, and that got flagged for roughing the passer, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, okay, he went to go hit him, he threw the ball, and he just pulled up and goes, okay. The concerning thing to me is you're going to start having, if that continues to happen, that, okay, he just got shoved, roughing the passer. What's concerning to me is you're going to start having defensive players, defensive ends, defensive linemen, safeties, cornerbacks, whoever is blitzing that quarterback go, you know what? If I'm going to get flagged anyway, I might as well get my money's worth, and the quarterbacks are going to just start getting pancaked all over the yard.
We were talking about this last episode. I mean, this is just one of those situations that it's becoming such a factor that it really shouldn't. And I mean, this is like just, basics. It's just you're going to have quarterbacks that are going to get pancaked because everybody's so worried about themselves. I mean, we talked about the Miami player from last week who tore his ACL because he was not trying to get any flag called on him.
Yeah.
And when you have situations like that, it's like...
I can understand protecting players and wanting to protect players, but to me, this seems like an overcorrection from the NFL where, The meter was wherever the meter was, and they just took the meter and turned it too far to the one side.
Yeah, that's the one problem. Is just you can't find that good balance, and that's what you need to find. And unfortunately, we haven't seen it yet. And I mean, this game is just that's the takeaway from the Browns in Oakland. How the referees took the game out of the Browns' hands.
Yeah,
and it's awful because you don't want to have that be your major story coming out of a game.
No, you would like the game to be about, oh, hey, the Browns are really close and they almost won on a Sunday for the first time in over 1,000 days. Because that's the thing. Apologies to Cleveland fans, but I did see it. It's now been at least over 1,000 days since Cleveland won a football game on a Sunday. So the conversation and the discussion we should be having is, hey, they were really close to winning on a Sunday, and instead they got screwed by the refs.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, and still there's got to be some leeway there. I don't know where you can find a balance. That's what I'm saying with leeway. Is just there's got to be some kind of, okay, this is the example. We all need to get on the same page about. Because you don't, just more games are going to end like that, and you don't want to see that. That's awful. Going around the league, though, I tell you what, I was never a real big believer of the Madden curse, but I'm thinking now it's taken away from doing injuries, and now it's haunting teams.
Oh, okay.
Take a look at how the Steelers are coming out the gate.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they lost yesterday on Sunday Night Football as we're recording, 26-14 to Baltimore. Take nothing away from the Ravens' defense because it's looking like shades of traditional Baltimore defense.
Yep.
But something is just not right with the Steelers.
No.
And it's, like I say, we know what's going on with Le'Veon Bell, who, at present time is still a member, albeit
he's still receiving a check from them.
Yes. Or he's still on the roster for right now, but he could get moved. Albeit, though, the one heavily rumored landing spot of him in Seattle is not happening because I know Earl Thomas was involved in the trade, and unfortunately he is lost for the season, I believe, with a broken leg.
Yep.
And obviously with the whole gesture that was going on with that game, where he decided to extenuate somebody was number one.
He was showing birds.
Yeah, and I know Le'Veon had enough time to tweet him and say, I'll be the bad guy for everybody that's holding out for a contract. This is still haunting the Steelers, and you can definitely tell it had an effect in this game because it just looked like the Steelers can't get the offense clicking for whatever reason.
Right, and I know, hey, kudos to the Baltimore Ravens. I was watching that game. I know I'm not the biggest Baltimore Ravens fan, and I don't know that much about them, but I know the one thing they kept bringing up was how they made improvements to the O-line. And you can definitely see that in that, it looks better. Flacco's getting a little bit more time. Things look better. Are they Super Bowl contenders? Yeah, not quite. I mean, they're playoff contenders. I'll give them that. But yeah, no, the concerning and confusing thing for me and surprising is just the Steelers play in that, okay, this has gone beyond Le'Veon Bell's not there. You still have Juju Smith-Schuster. You still have Antonio Brown. You've got their tight end, their young tight end, who I don't know if they just drafted him this year, last year, whenever. He's a young tight end who's really starting to emerge for them. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just father time caught up with Big Ben a little faster than ever others, or just everyone's got them figured out. But this is not the Steelers we're used to seeing.
Right. This is just something, as I said, with Antonio Brown not having a really great stellar season thus far. That's why I say the Madden curse is now spreading to the entire team. The Steelers just look, I don't know, it's just odd to see them not be the dynamic team that they've always been. I mean, albeit though Le'Veon Bell is not there, but James Conner has been a great running back for him as well, so it's nothing to sneeze at there. But it's one of those situations where Ben just doesn't look like the same old Ben. And I know that they were trying to do the pump fake pass a couple times last night, and it fell out of his hand. Right,
and I know they brought that up towards the end of the broadcast when the game was well in hand for Baltimore, that, the pump fake is a big part of Ben's game. As much as Omaha was a part of Peyton's game, pump fakes are a big part of Big Ben's game. And they were bringing up how much you didn't see that last night.
Right, and it was one of those things that when he tried doing it, he dropped the ball. And it was just like watching it going, this just doesn't look like the same old Steelers.
Right.
I don't know how else to describe it. And like I said, I don't know if it's the Madden curse. I just don't know if the whole Le'Veon Bell deal is still haunting the team that much.
I mean, the only thing I can think is it's partially the Le'Veon Bell thing haunting the team that much because, yeah, James Conner's emerged for him. He's had a great game. You look at his stats from last night, 9 carries, 19 yards. And his longest run was 4 yards. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, pick your favorite running back. You ain't getting much done with that.
No, Steelers were held in check by the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that I know everybody immediately after the game was, trying to get, something out of Antonio Brown, who's you know how clearly frustrated he is.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, he had a decent stat line. 5 receptions, 62 yards, 1 touchdown. But it just seemed like there's something out of sync with him.
It almost seems like when the couple times Gronkowski's gone down, where the dynamic of that team really changed when you lost a guy like Gronkowski, where he drew the double coverage and you freed up receivers and you freed up running backs. It almost seems like the same thing is going on in Pittsburgh, where you don't have a Le'Veon Bell. You don't have a dynamic guy who can do it all, who can run, catch, block. Yeah, James Conner's good. He's no Le'Veon Bell.
Right, and that's one situation that I don't know how the Steelers come out of this any better than they can get. I don't know, because like I said, Le'Veon, especially after seeing what happened with Earl Thomas, who is, like we said, he was somebody that was holding out, waiting for a new contract, but he came back, played, and now he's out the year.
Yeah.
So that whole new contract's pretty much up in smoke.
Right.
So Le'Veon is sitting at home watching and saying, see, this justifies why I stay home.
And this makes it all the more interesting, at least in my mind, is because I didn't know, talking to a few Steelers fans before the season and when Le'Veon, began his holdout, they always said, and I agreed with them, Pittsburgh doesn't do big money contracts. I'm like, yeah, okay, I know that, no kidding. But the interesting twist this takes is, okay, yes, they don't need big money contracts, but they're sitting at 1-2-1, and they're really not winning, and they're really not looking impressive. And you look at their schedule the next couple of weeks, and the bonkers thing, they're going they're staying at home and playing Atlanta, traveling to Cincinnati. They have a bye week in week 7. Then they've got Cleveland, Baltimore, Carolina, and Jacksonville. If you don't have a running game, those teams are going to eat you alive.
It's going to be a long game. No matter who they're facing.
So the interesting thing it takes is, okay, yeah, you don't give big money contracts, but you need something to spark that offense.
They've got to find a spark somewhere. In my opinion, they're not signing Bell. He's as good as gone.
Yep.
Where he's going to end up, I don't know. He'll be gone, though, by trade deadline somewhere.
Yep.
But for the Steelers, you're right. They need to find a spark somewhere, because especially the team they're looking up at is one Cincinnati, who I don't know. They're having that season where everything is clicking thus far. We'll see what happens when they get to the playoffs.
I've seen this show before.
Yeah, but they're pulling off a whole cardiac kids almost, or cardiac cats as they call them, with the come-from-behind shootout win at Atlanta.
I'm having memory flashbacks of Kemba Walker when he was at UConn.
Yeah, it's something that they're finding ways to win, and ways to win late. And especially traveling on the road, going into a hostile environment where Atlanta... I don't even know where to begin with them. I don't even know. They have so much talent on that offense that the defense has got to be making some stops, because this is just getting out of hand.
Yeah.
To be the score that was. 37-36, nothing to sneeze at, but giving them that touchdown late, 7 seconds left to A.J. Green. Cincinnati is rolling right now.
Yeah, they are. And of course, they've got the Miami at home next week. Then they've got Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay before their bye week in week 9.
A lot of action going on this week in the NFL. But let us know what you think. Hashtag it up, ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Rob Kacharik from the band 607, Autopilot Off, and Walking Distance, and you're listening to ODPH.
Come back for another segment on this week's ODPH, and we got to talk some UFC action.
Because there's arguably the biggest card of the year this weekend.
Arguably, because nobody else can hype up a card like Conor McGregor, and you don't have the caliber athlete that is Khabib fighting on the card, fighting each other.
Let me just add, nobody can bring in an entire country like Conor McGregor can.
Folks, this is so stacked. If you're going to watch any UFC card the rest of the year, this is the one you want to watch. This is stacked top to bottom. Even the undercard is pretty stacked. We're just going to kind of hit you with a little on the main card and just really break this down for you. So first off, we got Michelle Waterson versus Felice Herrig at 115, fighting in the women's strawweight division. That's just kicking off the main card.
That's a good start.
That's a solid start right there. I'm excited to see that one. Felice, I tell you what, I think she might pull off the upset here.
I get the same feeling, too. I feel like people might be sleeping on her a little bit, but I say not so fast, my friends.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that fast. And you know what? that one, like I said, that's just kicking off your main card.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even going to get into the prelims on it. UFC.com for more information on that. But that's a great way to start the main card. And like I said, I'm taking Feliz on that one. And then as you're working up, you got Derek Lewis versus Alexander Volkov.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Derek Lewis needs to put on a better performance than he did against Francis Ngannou.
Uh-huh.
And granted, he did pull, I believe he had back spasms in that fight.
Yeah.
So willing to give a little benefit of the doubt there.
Not
But
much.
Volkan is definitely nothing to sneeze at. He's an up-and-comer in the heavyweight division.
Mm-hmm.
And for Derek Lewis, I mean, I'm expecting this to be some real fireworks going on in this one.
Oh, without a doubt.
I'm hopeful because obviously we know what happened last time.
Yeah.
But if I got to take a choice in this one, I'm going to say Derek Lewis is going to avenge his bad performance last time around.
I'm going to go with Alexander Volkov via knockout.
Now, not a bad prediction. I think
mean, it's a heavyweight. It's like saying, Mark McGwire in 98 was going to hit a home run.
Right. I mean, this is one of those situations that both those guys have put on great performances thus far.
Mm-hmm.
We expect them to do no less. I mean, but you never know what's going to happen in the cage, and I hate saying that because I'm expecting Lewis and Ngannou to be the fight of the year.
Right.
Just straight rock'em sock'em.
Yeah.
And we did not get that one.
Nope.
Pat, what's the next fight?
Moving over to the light heavyweight division, you've got Ovince St. Peru versus Dominic Reyes.
Now, this one is a little interesting to see. We actually got our picks in from the one and only common man, Vince Iatoli from Crow's Nest MMA,
okay.
who is chiming in right now. He's taken Watterson, and he has taken Lewis to catch you back up to speed, but he has also taken Reyes in this one.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, he is going with that. I tell you what, this one is going to be a sleeper on the card,
I think so.
but I'm going to go OSP on this.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Something about it got me thinking OSP.
OSP has definitely put on some great performances. Reyes is nothing to sneeze at either. This one, like I said, is kind of fallen under the radar because I think both those guys are very quiet fighters in perspective to like Conor. You don't really hear a lot of hype behind him.
Right. They're the guys that like Joe Rogan or whoever is doing color commentary on the card goes to interview them after the fight, and they're not exactly like screaming, yelling, and hollering and calling out names. They're talking about their fight.
Right. So this is going to be one that, like we say, this is going to be your sleeper of the fight, but definitely a quality fight and taking OSP. I'm going to go by submission.
Yeah, thinking the same thing.
I'll go third round with that too.
Okay.
I'll take it in deep water. Now we have the co-main event.
Uh-huh.
Now this one is very, very interesting for me.
Okay.
Now I am a longtime Anthony Showtime Pettis fan.
Showtime?
Exactly. I've been a fan of his since the WEC days.
That's a long time.
Absolutely. And Tony Ferguson is finally returning to the cage. And this has been a while since he's been there, albeit because the last time that we've seen him fight was in October of 2017
right.
when he beat Kevin Lee. And it was for the interim lightweight title at the time. And,
yeah.
I mean, this is when it was all hung up because Conor was, doing
Conor things.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to describe it. And it's been a while since we've seen him fight. I mean, before that, the last fight was, I believe, against RDA in November of 2016.
Right.
So nothing to sneeze at about Ferguson. Probably the most well-rounded fighter in the 155 division. Common Man is definitely taking Ferguson, and he's saying he's going to storm the cage too afterwards, and he's going to jump in that main event after he wins.
I hope so.
Common Man is saying Ferguson and Ferguson early. Pat, who you taking in this one?
I'm taking Tony Ferguson. I'm like you. I'm a Showtime Pettis fan, and don't sleep on Showtime. But I think just given everything that has happened to Tony Ferguson in the last year plus, it's been a lot of negative. It's been a lot. The headlines haven't been that good. They haven't been that complimentary, if you will. He's got something to prove. He's got to get a monkey off his back. He's got to come out and show people, hey, I'm still a force to be reckoned with.
I agree with that point, that he's definitely got something to prove. But I am sticking with my fighter. I am sticking with Showtime to pull the upset off.
Okay.
Upset in some people's mind. But this is why I'm going with this. Since Showtime has came back to the 155 division, he has really looked a lot like that's his weight class. I know when he dropped down to featherweight, kind of had some mixed results.
Yeah.
But he's hung in there. He knows how to win. He's won at the 155 division before. He's nothing to sneeze at. And I think if anybody can give Ferguson some trouble, it's going to be Showtime. Because Ferguson, granted, is great on his feet, but that's where Showtime is Showtime. So for striking, I think they cancel each other out. Ferguson might have some better wrestling.
Yeah.
But the one thing that goes very forgotten and this happens with a select few fighters. Showtime can fight off his back like few can.
Mm-hmm.
He can definitely pull some submissions out of nowhere. He can definitely hang that if Ferguson does work his wrestling, Pettis isn't in trouble.
No.
This isn't going to be a lay and pray situation by any means.
No.
So I think Pettis has got something to prove as well, because I think a lot of people that you talk to about this fight say, oh, Ferguson's going to run right through him.
Right.
And obviously that sets up Ferguson versus the winner.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Pettis is hearing this, and Pettis is going, you know what? I'm a former champion.
This is true.
I've been in this situation before. This is not uncharted waters. If you doubt me, watch what happens.
I'll say this is a guy who might be considered an underdog when realistically he really shouldn't be.
No, he shouldn't be. I mean,
this should really be like a pick'em.
It depends. Because, like I said, he came off that loss from Poirier,
right?
You know, where he got stopped in the third
right.
round, and everybody was saying Chiesa was going to run right through him, and Chiesa was so much of a better grappler, which he might be. But you know what? How did Pettis win that fight?
I don't remember.
Submission.
Okay.
He took him down, and he was implementing his ground game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not to say that this is going to be a very lopsided victory for either fighter. I don't think it's going to be. In fact, I'll even give you my prediction. My prediction is this is going to go to decision, and this will be a split decision win for Showtime Pettis. That's how much I respect Ferguson's athletic ability, but I'm saying don't doubt Showtime pulling this off.
Showtime?
He won't. Like as I said, this is arguably, you got to say arguably in the fight game, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be maybe his last run for the belt.
It could be.
You know, he's been fighting for a long time. It's not to say that he's over the hill by any means. I want to stress that.
There's a lot of tread on the tires.
Right, but he's very seasoned. He knows what he's doing in there. And for Ferguson, I think is going to be so wound up to prove a point that he's going to maybe make a mistake he shouldn't. Maybe.
It could happen.
It could happen just because the thing is he hasn't fought, like we said, since October of 2017.
Right, and when we know he's had simulated fights, but simulated fights are one thing.
Right. So when you factor that into play, that, okay, he's going to be so amped up to get in there. And you know that he's got to put on a no doubt in anybody's mind performance. He should be in the next title fight.
Right.
That maybe this is where Showtime catches him. I don't know. This is where it is going to get very interesting. That's why I say I think this is going split decision.
It could.
This is my prediction. Now we get to the big main event, why everybody is tuning in, the hype machine known as Conor McGregor versus Khabib. You know the history. You know that Conor, dual champion, 145, 155, after beating Eddie Alvarez in November of 2016. Then he took the time off to go box with Floyd Mayweather, got stripped of the titles, now is returning after all this time to fight Khabib, who was supposed to fight Tony Ferguson for the longest time, but reasons that nobody can explain, somebody always gets hurt right before the fight.
This is true.
And then you had the incident in Brooklyn in April.
Yep.
I mean, this is just got so much drama involved in it that it's almost selling itself. For the wrong reasons, because I think the whole incident, and I know I've said this previously, Conor getting the immediate title shot after that whole garbage in the bus incident, really not the best look.
No.
In my opinion.
No.
But
especially this soon.
Yeah, this soon. Like, I thought, if anything, he should fight for a number one contendership and come back. And then, obviously, you got to figure out something to do for your championship thing.
Yeah.
But I get why he's getting the shot. I'm not, heartbroken or real angry about it.
Right.
I just say, after that whole nonsense where you had fighters get injured on a bus because of some shenanigans, there's no real easy way to say, maybe you shouldn't be getting the shot.
No.
Either way, he's going up against arguably the pound-for-pound guy on the planet.
The guy that scares me the most.
I tell you what, when Khabib is on, Khabib is on.
But it's not even because he fought bears. Yeah, he fought bears. That's not what scares me. What scares me is he's undefeated and he knocks people out.
He does. He's arguably one of the most well-rounded people that you'll see in the cage. And mainstream fans might not know who he is because he's really a quiet fighter. He's somebody that comes in, does his business in the cage, and gets out. He doesn't put on any flashy interviews, anything like that.
No.
Albeit his post-fight interviews are always very, very good.
Yeah,
if
they
you ever
are.
got a chance to catch them. But this is just something, he's coming off the fight against Ali Quinta from April, that a lot of people thought that there was a little bit of a game exposed, that there might be a way that people can finally beat Khabib. I don't know. Khabib is undefeated. Seeing that fight, he dominated every round.
Right.
Iaquinta did land, as soon as he could figure out some timing, he did land some shots.
Yeah.
Some. Overall, though, it's Khabib, just another great performance. So this one, I tell you what, I'm going to pass it around first. Common Man has chimed in and has said Khabib is winning this one.
Okay.
Just outright, that's all he's saying. He's not even saying how. He's just putting in big letters, Khabib.
Yep.
Pad, who you taking in this one?
You know what? It might surprise some people. I'm going to take Khabib in this one simply because you look at the press conference they had. I believe it was last week, where Conor was in full Conor McGregor mode. You know, running, making noises, swearing, this, that, and the other, which it's funny. It makes for funny compilation videos on YouTube. Look them up. But, there was the one point in the presser, I believe it was early on, where, of course, Conor McGregor has his own line of alcohol now.
Yeah, his double 12 whiskey, I think.
So, yeah, something like that. So he has his own line of alcohol, and he brought it with him. It's free advertising. He'd be dumb not to. But he, I guess it was Khabib's birthday or it was near his birthday, and he tries to give him a shot. Which, okay, in normal circumstances, I think the fighter would be like, oh, yeah, sure, okay. But Khabib, being Khabib, and for those who don't know, Khabib doesn't drink.
Yeah.
At all. So he looks at Conor and goes, why? Khabib is a person that it looks... He's not rattled by Conor. He's not rattled by Conor is doing his typical Conor things, and I think trying to rattle him a little bit, maybe get in his head a little bit. But to all intents and purposes, at least to our eyes, it looks like Khabib is not rattled, and that's why I'm taking Khabib. I think he's not scared. He's not going to back down from Conor, and if anything, he's going to push on Conor and really fight at his pace.
This fight is great if you subtract all the outside drama, like I said, with the incident and everything involving with that, and there was no pun intended when I said shenanigans either. It's just when you get down to bare basics, you have Conor McGregor, who is a great fighter, well-known striker, can land that left hand like nobody's business, going against the guy you can argue is pound for pound the best lightweight on the planet. You can argue he's the best fighter on the planet. You can argue that in Demetrius Johnson. I know Demetrius just lost, but you can still argue
it's like a 1-1A type deal.
You can argue it. Going into this, I am taking Khabib, and I will break down why.
Okay.
When you have such a big layover from fights, your last time in the octagon, as we have with Conor, this is something that you arguably can't just jump back on as like riding a bike. The last time that he's fought in the octagon, as we stated, November of 2016, he boxed after.
Right.
To be away from the sport for that long is arguably a tough thing to do. It's not to say that he can't come back in the cage and work his magic and really implement his will. But you have somebody like Khabib, who is the only reason he hasn't been in the cage is for injuries. And every time he's been in there, no matter who they've thrown at him, Michael Johnson, Edwin Barbosa, Iaquinta, he has put on a performance. He's the guy that outstruck Barbosa, who is one of the scariest strikers in 155. Khabib is not worried about what Conor is doing with his antics. The only thing that might happen, and I'm going to say, don't be shocked if this does, is early in that fight when the crowd is going wild, and the moment is sinking in, that this is the moment in time. Your legacy is getting, cemented. Maybe he's going to get some butterflies. He's not going to visibly show it, but he might start, okay, this is happening.
Right.
I fully suspect, though, as soon as the referee goes, let's go, everything goes out the window, and he is going to go into full attack mode. And I think he's going to be so wound up that he's going to immediately take Conor down. And what goes on from there, that's going to be the big X factor. We don't know Conor's wrestling. I know he's brought in some Olympic wrestlers from what I've heard to train with, which is smart, because he's going to need to.
Yeah.
Because for Conor to win this fight, Conor needs to create distance. He needs to create space to land strikes. Khabib is not going to let him do that.
No.
If anybody can put pressure on a fighter, it's Khabib, without question. He is one of the scariest people to do that. But the other thing that I will take away from the Barbosa fight, and I know it's 2 fights ago, he outstruck one of the scariest strikers in that division. He stood there. He beat him at his own game. The question is, what is going to be the game plan for him going into that fight? For me, I think he's going to play it safe, and he's going to take him down and just maul him. And I think that you're going to have to see what kind of ground game Conor has. We've never really seen him tested on the ground. So if he gets taken down, that's going to be the question. Because the last time I saw him taken down was against Nate Diaz, and we all know how that came out.
Yeah.
So that being said, I'm taking Khabib in this one. I'm thinking this one is going to go to the third round.
Oh, okay.
And I think this is going to be done by stoppage because I think Conor has got one shot to do this, and he's got to make it in the first round. He has to keep him at distance. He's got to land that high kick, and he's got to land the left. If he can do that, he's going to win the fight. He will beat Khabib if he can do that.
Mm-hmm.
If this goes to the second round, and Khabib has been doing mauling and just grappling, just straight grappling, and taking him down at will, the fight's going to end very quickly.
Yeah.
And I could see this ending in the third round, that he's just finally just going to wear Conor down.
Yeah, to me, Khabib is much like a little snowball on a mountaintop, and as the snowball it starts to roll down the mountain, it kind of picks up some additional snow and grows in size. Mm-hmm. Khabib is much the same way. He might start off a little slow or a little whatever. He gets rolling. Watch out.
Yeah, because that's going to be the thing. If Conor can slow him down and keep him at distance, then he's going to win this fight. If he can't, and this goes into a grappling match, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done. I'm almost going to say it depends on that first takedown. If it's something like Conor slips him and can get back on his feet, then I wouldn't count that.
Right.
But this is something where Khabib can grab him and just take him down and start landing shots. Like I say, take a look at the Michael Johnson fight if you want an example. I see this going somewhat the same way, and I see it going to the third. If this goes into deep water, Conor might have a slight advantage if he can get this to the fourth or fifth round.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where Iaquinta was getting some of his success in their fight.
Right, yep.
When it got late.
Yep.
When it got late. But can he get there? Because Conor's been known to finish in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
If he can drag it into deep water, if he can't finish in the first, he's got a shot. I don't think he's going to do it, though. I think Khabib has been gearing for this. I think he's in the prime condition for this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his legacy fight. Because if he beats Conor,
then
you go, okay, who's next? And then, I mean, he's almost cleaned out the division. Almost.
Yeah.
They can get Tony Ferguson healthy, or he can fight Showtime, which he has said too, or no, actually it was Conor said if somebody doesn't make weight, if Khabib does not make weight for whatever reason, he's willing to fight either one of those two in the main event.
That'd be interesting.
I see Khabib doing the same thing if there's some issue with Conor.
Yeah.
But that being said, I mean, that's the fight you make next.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's going to be an exciting fight on pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
Without question. But let us know what you think. Hashtag it up ODPH. That's our thoughts for UFC 229, but we want to know what you think. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH. Got to talk to that local minute. Pad, what you got?
Well, of course, hockey in the 607 is starting back up, and it's starting back in a big way this weekend. The Binghamton Devils are back, ladies and gentlemen.
About time.
Opening at home this Saturday, October 6th at 7:05 against the Toronto Marlies.
So if you're in town, definitely get down to the arena, support the Devils. It's hockey season.
Mm-hmm.
Fewer better sports going on than watching a hockey game live.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say, I'm getting amped up for it because it's also NHL kickoff time.
Yeah, it is.
And you know, Rangerstown, it might be a long season, but I still think we get to the playoffs.
Okay.
Might sneak in as an 8th seed. I'm just taking that early prediction because, just to sum it up, because we're going to get into hockey a little in future episodes, but we're running out of time for this week. So my NHL predictions for this coming season. The Rangers will somehow sneak into the playoffs as an 8th seed, but unfortunately they won't get there to the Cup. I can dream and I can hope they will. I hope I'm wrong. Shatterkirk's got to have a bounce back year. Zibanejad has got to really get the team rolling. And Kreider, we got to get something out of you consistently. But I'm optimistic because we are Rangers town. I think they sneak in. But my pick to come out of the East, Toronto is better with John Tavares, but they're not just there yet. The Islanders are going to be probably the most improved team with Barry Trotz now as the coach. And they got the draft pick I wanted and Rangers so bad, Oliver Wahlstrom. But it's not going to be them either. Buffalo is going to be a lot better. So Sabres fans, you have something to look forward to. But the team coming out of the East and head into the Cup is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Okay.
Nikita Kirchhoff, Steven Stamkos, JT Miller, Victor Hedman. They're stacked.
Yeah.
And they almost pulled it off last year, but it was Ovechkin's year. This year, I think they do it, and I think they do it well. They're going to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. Taking a look at the West, Vegas is going to make another run, but I think they're going to be on more people's radars this season.
Yeah.
And I think that might catch them a little later down the road.
So they're not going to be like 50-1 odds to win it all?
No. I think they're going to contend. They definitely will.
Yeah.
Same with the Los Angeles Kings, who, I know they got Kovalchuk now, and I think that helps their power play. But other than that, I really don't see them going over the top just yet.
No.
Nashville is going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to hang in there. In fact, I think they get to the conference finals. But my team to take it out of the West, Kevin Molson, where you at? I'm taking the San Jose Sharks.
Ooh,
They made the biggest acquisition getting Erik Karlsson out of Ottawa. But with Burns, Kane, Couture, Martin Jones behind the goal, this is their year. They have got to do it. They're going to get to the Cup Finals. And my way too early ODPH prediction, San Jose in 7.
Wow.
Joe Thornton is raising the cup with the most majestic beard in hockey.
I'll say, so if San Jose doesn't win it, we know an individual who's going to be having a conversation with you.
He probably will because he is. We haven't brought Kevin on the show to talk about that. He's overdue to talk some hockey here on the ODPH. So we'll have to bring him on in future episodes to give us a little hockey insight. But I tell you what, they're primed to win now, and
right.
And the biggest thing is they got Karlsson to come over. So they have arguably the best defenseman in the league. The team was already just on the cusp of getting there.
Yeah.
Now I don't see how they don't do it. Barring any really crazy injuries.
Right.
We can't factor in all that.
Right.
But this is something we're going to have to kind of see moving forward. So that is my early prediction. Hit me up, #ODPH. What's your NHL predictions for the upcoming season? I want to know. I can't wait for hockey to start. Rangers kickoff against Nashville. MSG, where are you at? We are Rangers town. Let's make some noise. All right, Pad, take the mic.
Well, I got to take it away from you before this turns into the Ocho Duro Hockey Hour.
Love that idea.
I would be a little remiss if I didn't mention playoff baseball because it is here, ladies and gentlemen, and it is here in the biggest way possible. 162 games, not enough to settle the postseason lineup. As we record today, you had 2 Game 163s going on. The early one was between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs, where Milwaukee won in a 3-1 contest. Currently playing as we record is the Colorado Rockies against the Los Angeles Dodgers, where the Dodgers are winning 4-0 as we record now. The loser of that game will move on to face the Cubs in the wild card game, and the winner will move on to face the Braves in the division series. But looking at the rest of the postseason bracket in the American League, you've got the Oakland Athletics playing the New York Yankees in New York. Thank God.
Thank you.
You've got the Boston Red Sox representing the American League East as division champs, and then you've got the Houston Astros and the Cleveland Indians. Now, Cleveland and Houston are playing each other. Boston awaiting who will win between Oakland and New York. As mentioned before, the Atlanta Braves are in the playoffs. They will play whoever wins between the Dodgers and Rockies. So if the game ended like right this second, they would be playing the Dodgers. And then you've got the Chicago Cubs playing whoever loses the Dodgers-Rockies game, which at this point it would be the Rockies. And whoever wins that game moves on to play the Milwaukee Brewers. Of course, all times, dates, and channels the games are on are MLB.com. Now, Ken, who do you think is going to win the playoffs?
All right, so coming out of the AL, diehard Yankees fan. I gotta stick to my guns. I think they're going to beat Oakland. They're going to beat Boston.
Oh, okay.
I'll even make the bold prediction. They're going to do it. Albeit they're going to take them to the limit.
Yeah.
The one thing about Boston, they've had a great regular season, but they haven't had that big slump.
Nope.
That every team goes through.
Right,
There's
even-
always a losing streak.
Right, even the Yankees in '98 when they won, what was it, like 112 games or something, something absurd like that, could have won 120 some odd games if they hadn't lost as much as they did the final 2 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
But it was good for them. They got the losing out of the way then.
It's the law of averages. It's bound to happen. Now, I could be wrong because Boston, on paper, should run away with this.
You would think.
They should, but the postseason, just weird stuff happens.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I say I think the Yankees will get past Boston. I like Cleveland over Houston. I think Cleveland flies under a lot of radars. And as much as this might pain me to say it, I could see Cleveland beating the Yanks.
I can see it too. Cleveland is also flying under a lot of radars. To me, Houston doesn't seem, they're not going to catch as many people sleeping as they might have done last year. People are going to be ready for them. They're not going to be caught surprised by them. I think Cleveland's going to be ready for them, and I think Cleveland's going to beat them.
It could, yeah. I think Cleveland definitely beats Houston. I just don't know what's going to happen because it depends. If the Yankees beat Boston in 7 games, they're going to be dragging a little bit because anytime it's Yankees Red Sox,
it's chippy.
It's emotional, it's a drain.
I mean, you get moments like Kevin Garcia and in 2003, Aaron Boone, David Ortiz, Pedro Martinez and Don Zimmer. It's not your stereotypical mid-July Yankees Red Sox game.
No, it's not. And then anytime, like I said, you get them locked up in the postseason, it's fireworks. Whatever team comes out of this is going to be drained.
Yeah.
There's just something, it takes a toll on you. So depending on how Cleveland does, I could see Cleveland sneaking past them. Regardless, I am taking the AL winner to win the whole thing.
Okay.
I just feel that the division's stronger. But I'm looking at the NL.
Yep.
I mean, I like Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. The Dodgers, I think, should get there.
You would think.
That would be like my lock, so to speak, but my leap is Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's flown under a lot of radars.
They kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah. And, I mean, they have an MVP candidate.
And Christian Yelich almost hit for the Triple Crown.
Yeah. So I think Milwaukee can get there, and I think that especially they're playing with house money. There's no pressure on them.
No.
I mean, there always is pressure when you get to the postseason.
Right.
But let's face it, they're not a big market team like Boston or the Dodgers.
They're not expected to go far.
No, they're not. So you know what? They can just play with house money and ride with it. And I could see them definitely upsetting some teams in the playoffs. I could see them getting there. And then, like I said, I like the AL winner in 6 against Milwaukee.
Okay, yeah. Look, I'm going to say, the Yankees will definitely get past Oakland. It's not announced yet who's the starter, at least as we record. It's not yet announced yet who's the starter. To me, it's J.A. Happ. You look at a guy who they acquired from Toronto at the trade deadline, and I know I said on the show, I said to multiple people, we'll see how it works. So glad I was proven wrong.
Yeah.
In I believe it's 10 or 11 starts, he has not been involved in a losing decision. He's like 6 or 7-0. Now, the games he doesn't have decisions in it, out of his control. So to me, he's your wild card starter, and then you move into game 1 of the LDS against Boston. Severino, young gun, proved himself last year. He started off bad in the wild card game last year, bounced back. I like the Yankees to get there and make it to the World Series because I look at they're starting to click at the right time. You had Stanton hit a couple home runs. Judge is coming back. Gary Sanchez is finally dug himself out of that hole a little bit. He was in all season, albeit it might have been because he changed what type of bat he was using. True story. Look it up. Looking at the National League side, Atlanta's definitely not something you can sleep on, and Milwaukee can't sleep on, and neither you can the Dodgers. But if I had to take a guess, Milwaukee's definitely a bet I would take. To me, Dodgers. You look at Clayton Kershaw, Yasiel Puig, Manny Machado. You look at the pieces there. On paper. Now, of course, this is on paper because things happen in playoffs, like stealing second base against a certain closer in 2004, or Aaron Boone in 2003. Weird stuff happens.
It always does.
It's the playoffs. So you never know. But I do like the Yankees to win it all, and I think they will win it because of 2 things: their bench and their bullpen.
They got to be consistent. That's the only thing that scares me about the Yanks.
Yeah.
because they've been very inconsistent this year.
They've been inconsistent, but you look at guys who really stepped up and kind of surprised some people. Luke Voigt.
No,
Who saw the Luke Voigt trade? I remember when we were going over the trade deadline trades. I'm like, yeah, Luke Voigt. Okay, yeah, sure, we'll see.
that
How
was a sneeze at, and he's been the savior for the Yankees.
Yeah, he's been getting comparisons to Shane Spencer.
Yes.
Which is high praise.
It is high praise if you can carry him as far as Shane did in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a wait and see. Hashtag it up, ODPH. We want to know what you think about the MLB playoffs as they are going forward now.
Mm-hmm.
So time to take us home with those locks and leaps. So I'll get us started for this, if you don't mind. And you can see our results on the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Facebook page. You can find links to that on ochoduroparlayhour.com, as links to all our social media and places where you can find the podcast, because we do appreciate your support on this. So going into it, my lock, I'm taking those New Orleans Saints.
Ooh, okay.
6.5 favorites over the Redskins on Monday night. They're coming home. It's a big game. Drew Brees always plays better at home, and something about the Saints on Monday night is always scary when they're in the Superdome.
Superdome's always rocking.
Always is. Now, for a leap, though, I tell you, this week is pretty well balanced.
Yep.
For the most part. Like, I'm trying to find one that's like a really, like a crazy one, but there isn't. But if I have to make a prediction,
okay,
I am going to go with the Seattle Seahawks.
Wow.
At home, upsetting the Rams.
Oh, okay.
Because the Rams are 7-point favorites. The Rams are, the greatest show on turf. And I
2.0.
And I get that. Yeah, and 2.0. But Seattle at home, and it's division. That's the thing about it.
Saying it's a 4:25 game, Eastern.
Yeah.
It's a late game.
It's a late game, but I'm saying this is my early prediction. I think that Seattle, they got a lot of drama going on. I think that this could be a trap game for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be because it's division, but anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they're playing the 12th man up in Seattle, it makes for a long day for whoever is up there.
Oh, yeah, the fans are definitely going to be amped for that one.
So I'm just saying, let's roll them dice.
Okay.
So we're going with Seattle. I know Edwin Fortunato, where he is listening, is chiming in with a big woo bomb right now.
Yep.
So he's fired up. Nostradamus. Shout out to him. Pat, who you got?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Rams and Seahawks and picking the Seahawks, because I'm going to go the polar opposite of that. I'm going to say the LA Rams are going to win. Of course, as you mentioned before, 7-point favorites. I just think you look at the defense, you look at the offense, they've got it all clicking in the best way possible for them. Jumping to my leap, you look at the Sunday night. The Sunday night game to me is, of course, as we said before, the Dallas Cowboys at the Houston Texans. Very interesting to me because you look at Houston and they've got the pieces there. They've got a good defense with J.J. Watt and everybody else on that defense. And you look at the Dallas Cowboys, they seem to have found something. Mm-hmm. As we said before.
They found their running game.
They found their running game. I think Dallas is going to pull it out, and they're just going to keep feeding Zeke. Why, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Houston reminds me of Atlanta.
Ooh, that's a good comparison.
Because they have got all the offensive tools in the world, and it just doesn't seem like it's clicking for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And their defense is good.
Yeah.
But there's just some games like they're in every game, but just somehow can't close it. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because I don't root against the Texans.
Right, neither do I.
But it's just like they have all the talents in the world, and they just can't pull it off. But they're not in as bad shape as Atlanta is, in my opinion.
No.
Atlanta is a very shaky team right now,
mm-hmm.
in my opinion. But Dallas does the same thing, and they just feed the ball to Elliott.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be the telling tale of that game,
mm-hmm.
no matter what. If for whatever reason, if they go against it, and let's say Houston shuts down the run, it's an easy win for Houston.
Oh, yeah.
I think if you get into a shootout, I take Deshaun Watson over Dak Prescott any day of the week. Let us know what you think, though. Hashtag ODPH. That's all we got for now. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. We are Rangers Town. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH. We'll see you next time.